Your Humanities Half-hour is brought to you by the Northern Marianas Humanities Council.
Welcome to Your Humanities Half-hour. I'm Catherine Perry. Well, the Cnmi Women's Summit was held on March 29, 2019 at Fiesta Resort Spa Saipan, featuring a panel discussion and working groups on a number of topics, including sustainable development goals. And today we're going to listen in on some of the discussion that was made, led by Representative Janet Maratita of the Cnmi legislature and Representative Tina Sablan. They were joined by Patricia Coleman of Northern Marianas College CREASE program. And here are the highlights of that discussion.
What do you see as the biggest challenge the Cnmi currently faces, and how do you think that can be addressed? What do you see as the biggest challenge that the Cnmi currently faces, and how do you think that can be addressed?
So I'm going to take the liberty of couching that in the topic discussion of the day. So if we could think about challenges in terms of sustainable development and for women specifically, I'll let you choose your own adventure there.
I might actually need a little more time for that question. Because where do you start, right? Sustainable development is a challenge in every community, and we've seen in this community so much change in such a short period of time, right? So much development may or may not be the kind of development that we want. And I think one of our biggest challenges with respect to development is really defining what we want. And so we have this new Office of Planning and Development. We have other agencies and organizations like MENA, Micronesian Islands Nature Alliance, Roberta's here, that are helping us as a community to really think through these very difficult questions about what kind of community we want, where do we want to be in the future. I think one of the hardest things for us in the Marianas, just in our very recent history, has been thinking for the long term and planning for the long term and thinking about the consequences of the development choices that we make. And one question that I would like to see us ask ourselves whenever we are faced with a proposal or this new humongous development idea that is going to change everything about the way we live, is asking, who benefits from this? How do we benefit as a community? How is this good for our children? And what are the costs? What do we have to pay for that? And these are all big questions. And Erin here is with the Office of Planning and Development. I do know that they are accepting feedback up until March 31st about what the priorities of this community should be in terms of economic development. And I think we all have important ideas and voices to bring to this table, and I would really encourage everybody in this room, and for you to encourage everybody that you know to participate in that planning process and in every opportunity that we have to have a say in where we're going, where we want to be.
For me, the biggest challenge really that we have in the Cnmi as a whole, in my opinion, is that, and before I go into that, I'd like to inform you that I am one of the supporters for the creation of the Planning and Development Office, where Erin is now heading the office with CODEP. But I did support that legislation, and honestly, the economic development, not only a challenge for me, but we need to have a sustainability in also addressing our social being. And I'm very concerned and again, that's a challenge for me. I'm very concerned of the many economic development, whether infrastructure, and so forth. But we have to bear in mind the social impact of our community. And we need to balance economic development with our social well-being of our islands. So again, that's a challenge for me, and I'm working hard to ensure that there's balance between economic development and our social being, especially for our children.
So, I think one of the things, I guess, in the context of women in sports and in soccer, is that in a sport that's very male-dominated, that's the most funded sport in the world, and that's the biggest sport in the world, the real goal that we've been pushing for is more representation of women. Women need to be at the table. And if we don't have that, then we'll continue to see things done the same way. And we'll continue to see, in many cases, the same systematic barriers. So, I think women having a voice at the table and being in positions of leadership in all facets of society is something that we really need. I don't know if it's the biggest issue, but it's definitely an issue.
And these issues are interconnected, right? So I would be remiss in my duties as a planner to not update the audience that the Office of Planning and Development does have a survey, and we're engaging in a long-term planning process to help support this discussion about what goals are and how to get there. So you have to identify that goal in order to then have the objectives and the targets in place and monitor your success, right? And so getting the people to the table. Look, we have the people at the table. You're all here today engaging in this conversation. And so thank you for that. I do want to save time for our next panel. So if there are any pressing questions, yes, we have a...
Para todos Samsung Ifamalawan. I usually get very emotional because esta vieja, I'm old, low, financial. Tina, the two of you, afaji kumekeleng na. Lot of money development, low development for what? Our island is very small, so how to really improve our tiny island? We need to be educated, but my question is, development for what? So whether we see our traditional and then the modern things, and the third, how to really develop our mafafala, hagon sports, the lemay, sustainability, how to improve the farming and how to improve the lansu, the walu, how to improve the Tasi, the ocean, because that's it. That's our economic. So can you answer that? Ago, you understand my English and my Chamorro all broken? And the Palawan, I like the Palawan because, boy, they have a good leadership. Jesus Masi, thank you, and Criso.
Thank you, Auntie Chailang, for that question. It speaks so close to my heart. Development for what? Really, development for whom? So the way I see it, it's not really development if you're destroying your environment. It's not development if it doesn't improve quality of life for everybody, not just a few. It's not development if it's not really investing in the future well-being of your community, your children, your grandchildren, everybody to come after you. If you're not leaving a better place, if this development doesn't leave this place better than when you found it, it's not really development. Somebody benefits, but the community doesn't. And I think that these are really hard questions. There are always going to be competing interests, competing visions. But one thing that I've noticed, even just at the precinct level, we've had a couple of forums, invited people to just come and share what are their concerns, right? And it could be, oh, the street lights are too dark. I don't feel safe in this area. There's flooding in this area. We want more activities for our youth. People, whether they realize it or not, they were talking about development. Development that means something to the people who live here. Development that means something and builds pride and really builds a better future for everybody that's here. Not just for the ones who already have money, not just for the foreign investor. Really, our community has to come first. That's the kind of development I'm looking for. I would love to hear what kind of development everybody else here has in mind. I think what's important is that at the end of the day, we come to some kind of collective vision for where we want to be, and then we plan how to get there. But it really has to start with that basic question: what development for what? Development for whom? Are we really putting our islands and our people first? I think the answer should be yes, but we all have to come to that table.
Si just masente chalang neno na bonito na question na ja ungan magait finenina gijakwolok ki debidita ta ikunguk dan ta faisin mais sahit finenina specialmente para hami ni mangaigi ni representa interest mizo ni publiko finenina I para haji I development jan para no haji po fam beneficio puro debidi ta questiona para haji finenina sa jangim para nos quantosa jati para I interest I tautauta I tanota pues debidi para ta acceptano na klasin no development jagi para go development no debiloki ta na holum I pamagonta I eskwela debita I hospital inigi siya na klasin development uatan mo na inigi preciso para ko jangin development para todos jan para fan beneficiary tau-tauta especialmente edukasyon ihinemlo jan I social pues inigi na development uatan lo angin development na para nos cuantos pues inigi sinabi siguram jo na tiusa popota no na klasin development pues jaon non tungwen nigi na unggan todo tempo I development faisin mamaisa jo loke para haji finenina estina development jan haji para beneficia jan quanto po fan beneficia.
Good morning. My name is Agnes McFeeters, and I'm so glad that I enter here when you're talking about development, because I am an educator. I am not a politician. And when we talk about development, we talk about individual development as an educator. If we don't empower our people with knowledge and skill, we're losing it. I am so pleased to see today that the majority of the people that are here are women. Years ago, I was the first woman with a college degree that came back to the Cnmi. And you know how it feels to be by yourself among all men. This is development. And why? And why? Because we have focused on individual development. And I want to continue to push this because it goes all the way back to education. If we do not empower our own people, we can kiss goodbye because the outsiders are going to be the power. How do we make the best of what we are doing now? how could we do the best of what we are doing yesterday? And that should be the premise of the legislature, of the governor, the executive branch, of the educator, and everyone. We are all in it. It's not just the legislature, it's not just the administrator, it's not just the business community, it's each of us individual. The commitment. And I see that many times what we're lacking here is the commitment. The commitment to improve. And that's what we have to work towards. Thank you.
More from the Cnmi Women's Summit after this break.
Did you know that you can donate up to $5,000 to the Humanities Council through the Cnmi Education Tax Credit Program? Donations from individuals and corporations qualify and can be used to offset your local wage and salary tax, BGRT, and earnings tax. Call our office at 235-4785 to see how you can support humanities programs in our community and obtain a tax credit for your donation. Sizuus Maasi, Olomai, and thank you.
Welcome back to your Humanities Half-hour. We're picking up some highlights from the March 29th Cnmi Women's Summit put on by the Cnmi Women's Association at Fiesta Resort and Spa Saipan. We're going to listen in on a little bit of the presentation made by Representative Janet Maratita regarding the history of elected leaders being women and also members of the judiciary being women here in the Marianas.
Women are underrepresented in the Cnmi public office. And here's the statistics. Women are significantly underrepresented in the Cnmi public office since the first governor, lieutenant governor, and legislature took office in 1978. There have only been 14 female members of the House, 3 female senators, and no female lieutenant governor or governor. Statistically speaking, since 1978 until today, there have only been 30 seats in the House of Representatives out of 367 seats that have been occupied by women. Additionally, there have been only 7 seats out of 189 seats in the Senate that have been filled by women. And further, there have been zero seats out of 11 for governor and 0 seats out of 11 for lieutenant governor that have been filled by women since 1978. Women are underrepresented in the Cnmi public office. Since the first justice and judges took over in 1989 until today, there have been 3 female members of the Superior Court and zero female members of the Supreme Court. Since 1989 until present day, there have been only 5 seats in the Superior Court out of 30 seats that have been filled by women. For the Supreme Court, there has been 0 out of 14 seats filled by women. After being aware of these numbers, I ask you, powerful women out there, do we believe that it is time to press for progress and parity with public office? We need these numbers to change. More than half of our population in the Cnmi consists of women, so there is no reason why women should be underrepresented. We are capable indeed, and we have a lot to offer. We need more women to pursue careers in public office, and also we as women must encourage, support, and lift each other in order to accomplish this endeavor. You might ask, why should one pursue public office? Please allow me to share with you a little bit of why I decided to be a public servant. First, I am a single mother, so I understand the everyday struggles and challenges that our people face I lived through those struggles and challenges. When I saw the needs of our people and realized the underrepresentation of women in office, I decided that I didn't want to be a complainer, a whiner. I want to be a doer. I decided that I want to contribute through public service. I want to partake in the legislative decision-making processes. And I believe that the perspective of a woman and the perspective of a mother should be included in these decision-making processes. Now, you might ask, why is it important for a woman to pursue public office? And my answer is very simple. It is because every issue is a woman's issue, whether it's a social issue, an economic issue, an environmental issue, political issue, or an educational issue. Women have great ideas to bring to the table. Their perspective in public office is invaluable. We need women's perspective in our leadership, in our lead-hership, because we need to have balanced views in order to best serve the entire public. And finally, to end this presentation, I would like to encourage all of you, strong women of the Cnmi, to consider pursuing public office. It is extremely rewarding to be a public servant, to assist those in need, and to serve your community. Further, I would like to encourage all of you women to please motivate, support, and lift one another. Do not be discouraged to follow your goals. When things get difficult, persevere. I did persevere. I ran 9 elections and lost 3 elections. And now I'm here again. I am an example of this philosophy of perseverance. And if I can do it, you can do it too. Thank you, Sizusmasi and Galiso, to all of you.
Thank you, Representative Maratita, for laying the groundwork for the context of women's representation here in the Cnmi. Next, I would like to call Ms. Patty Coleman to the stage, if you please. Patricia Coleman serves on the Northern Mariana Islands Football Soccer Association, the Executive Committee as a Women's Committee Chairperson, and is the only Indigenous member of the Executive Committee. She has coached soccer for 12 years and was the first female in the Cnmi to obtain a C coaching license from the Japanese Football Association at a coaching course that is intended for male coaches. Patty is the president of Pare Football Club, a nonprofit club that is committed to giving all children the chance to enjoy the sport. She's been involved in NMIFA in various capacities as a parent, a coach, a referee, a national team manager, a field liner, and a youth committee chair. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Patty Coleman.
Thank you, Erin. I titled this presentation Women in Sports, but actually if I could see the PowerPoint, it's really going to be about women in soccer. You know, we know that for females, for girls, and for women, we need to have role models. And role models who you can relate to and are the same gender as you are very important for encouraging and developing our females into leaders. It takes a lot to run the Northern Mariana Islands Football Association. We use the term football and soccer interchangeably here. And, you know, it really is a lot of work. There are officials that we need, referees, and we have made a very cognizant, we've been very cognizant of trying to recruit women. We're one of the few football associations in our region that equally resources males and females. And if you know anything about the sport of soccer, you'll know that that is very, very impressive, that we equally resource our males and our females here. It's always great to have the government's support. We don't We're not regularly funded by the government, but it does help to have their support. And we have definitely received funding from the Marianas Visitors Authority. So thank you, MVA, for that. And I think we got about $25,000 towards our soccer facility in Coblerville, which costs about $5 million to build. So yeah, Jerry did a lot of the fundraising for that. And we think it's absolutely wonderful that it's in Coblerville. There is a lot of high-risk behaviors going on there among the youth, so we use that as an opportunity to help develop our youth again. Also, to run a successful soccer program for females, you need heroes. And you need people who are going to be advocates for women. This is the U.S. women's soccer team, and they are doing, for the second time, something unprecedented in the world of soccer. They're suing the U.S. Soccer Federation for not paying them equally to the men's national team. Yes. This is a very big step for all women in all FAs, in all football associations, in all soccer federations are watching this very closely because they have a very interesting situation. They have a situation in the U.S. The soccer in the U.S. is I think it's one of the few sports, if not the only sport, and definitely the biggest sport, where the women consistently outperform the men. Consistently, they outperform the men. And the U.S. women's soccer team generates more revenue than the men as well. Yeah, they generate millions of dollars every year. But the challenge that they have, and the reason they're filing this lawsuit is, they have to work harder in order to make less money than the men do. And so this has real implications for us throughout the world of soccer and for females in all sports in general. This is going to be a real huge issue, and we're so glad. So I consider them heroes for all women taking that step. At this point in the CNMI, our NMIFA is not perfect, right? But we do have a lot of things that we try to do to impact the entire Asian Football Confederation that we're a part of. Aside from sending female coaches to coaching courses that are intended for men, we've also done things like sent female representatives to meetings that have never been attended by females before. So can you imagine? That still exists in the world. That still exists. We still have countries that women aren't allowed and aren't welcomed to watch soccer in the stadiums in their own country. This is part of the Football Confederation that we're a part of. And this is where the CNMI is going to continue to work and take risks so that all women in our sport can benefit. So here's some reasons why that soccer is, sports in general, soccer, of course, is beneficial for our females. Well, we find that girls who participate in sports have better grades, better body image, and women come in all different shapes, sizes, ages, and everything else you can think of. They learn teamwork and goal setting. It builds their self-confidence. They interact with people from different places, cultures, and backgrounds. They get to travel to places. They get to volunteer for community projects, and they coach. And this is often, for our national teams, this is actually mandatory as part of being on the team. And it's a positive way to cope with stress.
Well, the Cnmi Women's Summit was held on March 29th here in Saipan and featured a number of great panelists speaking on a variety of topics. And we're going to touch on more of those topics next week. Just want to give you an opportunity for those that weren't able to attend to hear some of the dialogue from both the panelists and members of the audience that participated in this great event. Looking forward to more of that discussion next week. This has been your Humanities Half-hour. I'm Catherine Perry.
This program was supported by a We the People grant awarded to the Northern Marianas Humanities Council from the National Endowment for the Humanities. Any views, findings, conclusions, or recommendations expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily represent those of the National Endowment for the Humanities or the Northern Marianas Humanities Council.